But yeah, then let's start. Okay.
Okay, yeah, welcome everyone to the second installation of our monthly meetup. Thanks for already to the participants showing us great stuff, I hope. And as Pandur said, like, feel free to ask questions if the participants and presenters are not fine with being interrupted, is also fine. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're monitoring the chat there, and I will relay questions, and same goes for the meetup channel. And the schedule for today would be Gert-Jan Akerboom showing us how to work with the new Shapekeys feature that we implemented into cables recently, and how that works with Blender and everything integrates nicely. And then we have a patch breakdown, show and tell for two demo scene productions that both won their representative demo parties. That's Labels and farbrausch showing us Brutal, which is the invitation to the deadline demo party and one Nordlicht demo competition. And then we go into deadline demo party and see the winning release by top right, bottom left, called Hallmackenreuther, and dojie and LJ will tell us a bit about it. And then we hand over to pandur, who will show us some behind the scenes stuff on WebGPU and canvas rendering in cables. So without no further ado, I'd hand over to Gert-Jan. Feel free
Hello.
to start. Welcome.
Okay. Thanks for coming, everybody. Do you guys hear me okay?
Yep. Yes.
Yep. Okay, sharing the screen. You should see it now, or?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I've never done this before. Oh,
Okay,
do you also hear that feedback? No.
Yeah, 1 second.
Better? Better? I don't hear it anymore.
Test.
Okay. Test.
That sounds fine.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, good.
Cool.
So, Shapekeys. Since a short time you can actually make Shapekeys in Blender and then have them working in cables. It's really nice and cool. I thought I'd just show. Do you guys still see me now? It's
fine.
It's a little
not
bit
moving anymore.
It's not moving yet. It's frozen. Now it's moving.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Weird. Okay, so and now it's frozen again?
Nope, all good.
Stream is still running. We've paused this preview.
Oh, I saw the mouse, but yeah, you're not able to turn.
Maybe click on the collections on the upper right.
I mean, I don't have to see it, but you guys see my mouse moving?
Yeah. It looks
you see your mouse, yeah.
I'm just gonna continue. So Shapekey, I thought I'd just show the simplest way, or like really show what a Shapekey is. It's kind of a recorded state of the vertices of a mesh, you could say. So, for instance, if you have just this cube here, it has 8 vertices. And if you make a Shapekey, which you do in Blender here in this tab, it says Shapekeys. Basically, you click here once, and then the shape that it has now is recorded. And you click again, and then you go into edit mode and change something, like this, for instance. And then you tap out of edit mode, and it's gone, but now you recorded another shape of this mesh. Basically, you can see it here if I select it and then I do this, and that's the Shapekey. So you can actually take this, export it into a GLTF, and then open it in cables. I think most people know how you do that, and there's also lots of tutorials about it. So I want to show something different that I think is kind of cool, and it's called the MDD exporter, which is basically a way to export the information from a mesh and then get it back in Shapekeys. So for instance, I have this flag, or it's not a flag yet, but it's a flag. So these are just two things making a little bit of wind, and there's a cloth modifier on the flag. And now what you can do is you can basically record this movement and then get it into cables. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. You need to this MDD exporter, it comes with Blender, but it's not on by default, so you have to do that first. You go to Preferences, and then you just go to Add-ons and type MDD here, and then you get this. And for me, it's already ticked, but you have to tick it, and then it's on. So what you can do now with this flag is export this. So what you have to make sure, you can do basically any modifier on any mesh, and you can do that with it. You have to make sure that you get the transform, the object, and apply all the transforms. Otherwise, it works. Otherwise, it gets real funky. So you have to do that. It just means that the location is 0, 0, 0. That's the little dot here. No rotation, and the scale is just 1. So now we go to export, and here is the Lightwave Point Cache MDD, and you click that, and then all you have to do basically is export it. So I just click export. So until it's done, takes a tiny bit.
Can I ask a question in between?
So of course.
And now it is calculating like every frame from the wind simulation, basically. Or yeah, I guess.
I get. So what it's calculating is for every vertice, the location for every frame for 250 frames.
Okay.
But it doesn't do it yet already. You have to. This is a kind of a weird thing. You have to export it and save it, and then you have to select this one and delete basically everything. So delete the cloth modifier. And if you have anything here, so I have a vertex group, I just do that to be sure. Just delete it. And then you go back and you say import. And then you import that thing again. And now you get all the, so here are all the shape keys for every frame. And it also, yeah, you see it has all the keyframes. So now if we play it, it'll just do that. But as I can prove here, you don't need the wind anymore. It's just recorded. So now you can just take this as it is. 250 frames, it might be a little bit much. So let's just make it 180 or something. And you go to export it as a GLTF. And really the only thing that you have to do, and that I always do just to be sure, is say limit to selected object. So you're only exporting this one. And just call it something. One, the desktop. There you go. When the black square is gone, it's exported. Oh. Damn, what's this? It's in my way. Okay. So now here's a little cables patch. I just put in a main loop and orbit control so we can kind of see around. And this is a floor grid, just so you can have some perspective. Now all you have to do is hit this one. Now it takes a little bit. Takes a little bit longer than normal. Maybe that's because the streaming is also on. There we go. So here's my GLTF. drag it into the scene. And then you connect it to the Pong material. And it doesn't, oh, it does work. Wait, you have to set it to, let's see, double-sided material. And then you're here in the GLTF scene. There's the time runner. And if you take a timer and connect it to the time, and it should start playing, and there it goes. So it's pretty cool. You can basically use this with everything, any modifier you put on a mesh in Blender. You can record it into Shapekeys, and then you can have it in cables to play with. So what I did, just for if people want to look it up or something, or play with it a little bit, I made this patch. The link will probably be in the YouTube description, I guess. It has a couple of these meshes that I made with modifiers. So it has this little, this blobby one. There's just some, I guess, curtains. This one is the wave modifier in Blender. Tablecloth. I mean, just simple things. Worm. And when you go to this patch and you go here, this is the Blender file that I use to make these things, these 5 meshes. And I'll just show you real quick the Blender file. That is this one. And I made it so that in this collection, these all have the shape key. So they all have been exported with the MDD cache and then imported back in. And here, the top collection that has the meshes. So here, it has the meshes and the modifiers are still on there. So you can see what's happening. This one is the displace modifier, and it's being displaced by this empty. So it goes real fast, but it's the cool thing in cables is that you can just slow it down. So that's that one, and then the curtain. The computer is real slow. So yeah, that's. I just wanted to show it once, and then there's a little trick I thought I'd show you guys, because it's kind of cool to record it. For instance, the flag, but as you saw before, let's see here. This one. Did I put a flag? No, so I think I did it on this one. So with the flag you saw before, you see that it starts. It's just a square in the beginning, and then it starts glowing. But there's a fun trick in Blender that you can kind of loop these actions. So let me just go back to that other one here. So this flag. So you see, as you see, it starts. It doesn't loop. It just goes until here, and then it stops and it goes again. But it would be cooler if you don't see that. Just have it looping all the time. So let's see if we can do that. I just want to see where it starts. Or maybe stupid thing. Just gonna take.
Can I just take
frames? Yeah, sure. Hello.
I'm just I opened this on my Android phone and it doesn't seem to work at all. The blob or any of these it's interesting that there is such a difference in systems as well. Like this is working for you on Windows. I don't know why it's not working on Android.
Well, I promised, or we promised that we're not going to talk about this debugging. It's not perfect. It doesn't work on everything yet. I also had some meshes that I exported exactly in the same way that I did other ones, and I just can't seem to get them to run in cables, but that's not quite sure why that is. Also, I didn't know, I haven't checked it on the phone, but if you say it could be that
Yeah,
it's just
nothing.
not working.
Yeah, only the only one is that works is the mesh wave. That one works fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it has something to do with how heavy it is. I think that's the least heavy one, the wave.
Oh, sorry, the worm also works. The worm also works.
The worm, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe it takes
it's
a little
bound
bit to load.
Yeah, it's bound to texture sizes. So, for example, iOS, or I don't know, Firefox also has some limit. If you have over 8,000 vertices, right now it's not working. But you can. The best way to give this feedback is to write an issue and have an example and let us know which device it is or something. But it's pretty much still in development. Also, for me developing it was really helpful that you posted your examples, and I could test with them, because there are a lot of bugs. I only had some random example files that I developed it with, and it's always great to have more examples to test it with. Yeah.
So
I saw that head, and I don't think it came from Blender, so because I imported that file, and it was it seemed like it came from somewhere else. I don't know quite know what, but the head was working, the mouth and the eyes and all that stuff.
Does that mean that it's 80,000 vertices per object, or for the entire scene for Firefox? Just so that it's great to know.
I don't know. This is also my Firefox on macOS says the maximum texture size is 8K. But the thing is, I need to implement a more smart way so that it just checks your maximum texture size, and then it creates those textures with multiple lines. But whatever, this should not be the topic here, because it's quite boring for many people.
Yeah, this is already great.
Yeah, we are working on this, and so this was the first version, and
it's already working pretty cool.
further. Yeah.
Super impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just show you real quick this little trick in Blender to loop this flag, or basically any mesh. What you do is you go to the NLA editor, and so this one is selected, and it has this. You have to kind of activate it. So this is actually I don't know what it exactly is, but it's a kind of a recording. It's the same thing as the keyframes, but it's more but it's like a timeline chunk. So what you do now is you make it half the timeline, half the length, and so I have to get one more of these, and this one I drag here. So what happened now is this is the beginning, and it goes to the middle, and this is the middle on the top one, and it goes to the end. And what we want now is kind of to blend those two together, and hope it works and makes it a looping animation without any start or end point. And what you do is you click the first one, and I have to look this up real quick. It's hold and combine, and then you say auto blend, and you take the bottom one and hold forward and replace and auto blend, and now it should basically loop. The only thing that is still there is that the first and the last keyframe are the same, so it will jump a little bit, but we just take I guess one off, and now you should see that the flag is just looping and not starting and stopping. So this is kind of cool. And now the only thing that you have to do is export the MDD cache again, kind of the new version of it. So export it, just call it flag. Oops, export. Okay, it's done. So now I just delete all the keyframes here, all the shape keys here. Delete all shape keys. Oh no, it's gone. And import this MDD cache from the desktop here. Now the flag should come back, and I have all these shape keys that are basically looping. Now, for some reason, what I always do is delete these two. I don't know why, just to be sure. Now we can export this as a GLTF. So just on the desktop, include selected objects. Export. So let's see if that worked. This one. Okay, so this is the flag that stops. Let's load the other one. This one. There it loads, so it's loaded. I'll drag it in here. And I'll take the timer and put it in the time. And I'll take this one and put it in there. And now that still jumps a little bit, but we have a flag that loops.
Nice.
Straight from Blender.
That's awesome.
Kind of cool. It still jumps. I don't know why. Maybe I did something wrong with the keyframes, but I've made them before, and it's possible to just have them smoothly blowing in the wind without any jumps.
We don't see it in the stream.
How large is the GLB files? Like tiny?
I think they're up to like 7.
Oh shit!
28
kilobytes.
It goes pretty fast. This one is
28 megs.
Yep.
Okay, so
yeah, I mean, but this is also really. I mean, yeah. There's always this trade-off. What you want to do? Maybe you could do it with textures or with this, and I guess like a flag animation, you could also do procedurally. But yeah, in many cases, it's really helpful to have this vertex data. But yeah, really cool, really interesting.
Big, yeah. I just want to.
Yeah, but this is also what's the
MDD.
resolution of the flag? It's really high res, right? I mean, it's a lot of vertices.
Yeah, I made it pretty big. I mean, most of the time when I do stuff, I make a patch with these things and I make them a lot smaller, you know. But there's always this drop off. You want things to look smooth, and also you don't want it to be too big, you know. It's kind of.
Yeah.
I kind of like to work with like if you put this in cables and then you do this posterize thing over it, so you don't see all the little squares so much, and it kind of looks a little bit better already. I mean, there's a different.
I mean, you could also reduce the number of keyframes so that cables is doing more interpolation. I think then it would also drastically reduce the file size, but it should still be linearly interpolated or whatever interpolation you choose. So you could tweak it a lot. So you only have like every 5th frame you export a keyframe, and then the stuff in between will be interpolated. Yeah. But yeah, it's really interesting. See how it's done. Actually,
I mean, these are also just to show. I don't know if you still can see it, but if you just make it one color, then you can make them much smaller. You know, then it looks like a sea creature.
If you're creating a demo or an art installation, this is amazing and perfect, and can be implemented with a bunch of interactivity. Just for web purposes, it's very difficult to have something that large.
Yeah, I'm thinking more about maybe FX hash, something like that, and you can go a little bit bigger. But the flag was definitely too big already, you know, because it's kind of up to 30 MB or something that you can upload. But
again, nothing of this is like really optimized, but it was really nice to see all these tricks that are there in Blender to really quickly do a waving flag. And as I posted on the meetup channel, we had a flag contest like 2 years ago, so maybe Maybe someone
This is the winner.
for another one. Doing flags. Nice. Thank you, Gert-Jan. More questions?
Really cool, thanks.
It was fun to do. Thank you for having me.
Flag. As I posted on the meetup channel, we had a flag contest like 2 years. That's me.
Okay, I will mute him. Okay, cool. If there are no questions, we will continue to the next one. So we will show the demo first, right?
Yeah, what we're going to see is a demo, as said, like invitation to deadline demo party in Berlin, one Nordlicht demo compo, made by Sleighbells, and farbrausch is called Brutal, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see the whole thing.
Are you actually sharing it now?
Sorry. Yeah, you cannot. Okay.
Organic architecture is an architecture from within, outward, in which entity is the ideal.
Nice.
I will restart it. Is it? Okay. I hope this is with sound. If not,
It had sound right now.
okay, great.
Organic architecture is an architecture from within, outward, in which entity is the ideal.
Okay, so I guess that worked. And now I'm going to share my screen
Great work, by the way. Really love it.
Thank you. If anyone has just seen that for the first time, I really recommend watching it without like an encoder in between, because it looks way better. And it also doesn't make me die inside a little. Can you people see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So that's refreshing. Okay, so let me introduce myself real quick for those who don't know me yet. I'm Darya. I have been doing stuff with cables since 2019, shortly after it went public. And I actually started without any prior experience with graphics programming or anything else. I thought like the demos were for the people who were good at math and programming, and I'm neither of that, so why bother? Turns out it was actually wrong, and while everyone was making bread during COVID, I was making patches and learning how to make stuff without all the complicated stuff in between. Then a few demos happened, and which brings me here. This was a recent one. I worked on it together with KB, Tamo, and Ronnie, who did the music. Yeah, and the goal of what you're going to see is to show you that you can actually make a demo without being a wizard in everything else. It's actually like all small parts, and the result is bigger than the whole experience, and you can make it without having panic attacks and crying, which was kind of surprising for me, but I really tried this time.
But Darya, you're also a cabling wizard, so you're still a wizard.
Yeah, but it took some time. I'm definitely not as wizardry as some people who do the things from scratch. I'm just good at abusing basically what you guys give me. Yeah, so every demo looks different, and every demo only needs to do something once. You don't have to cable yourself an entire system that is universal and will work every time for all your next demos. So don't be like that. I'm just going to show you around my patch and explain why I did the things why I did. Let's start with like what you really need in every demo. So that here you have timeline and demo-Zeug made by Tamo, which is the whole player control things, so you can skip around and have everything at your hand. Then I have set myself with a comfy sidebar, which shows me how much if I'm having performance problems, and also, which was really great, the whole time, the demo time. We have the time. Then we have also the current beats, and we have the current frame, and which is even better. Like in like this. It's a little things for me, and this time what was really useful was to have a little button that takes a screenshot whenever I want to, so I can put those things into Figma and then rearrange during the whole planning process and kind of make myself little storyboard thingies, not real storyboards, because I actually never know where I'm going to end up where I start a demo, and it's okay. Then here you have all the PBR textures. They are loaded exactly once, and you can use them all over again. And then here, some really useful math and music stuff made by Tamo. So the track goes in, and then you have the BPM counter. You have like some little animations. I ended up actually not using most of the pre-made animations, but having the total bar and total beat counters is really nice if you want to use this as a input for some map ranges for animating, and yeah, this is something that I always have in my demos, because it's really useful, and you don't really have to count, and you can also work with the music really well. So as you see, this is kind of complicated. On this side, we have all the things that are drawn first, the whole scenes, the meshes. Okay, so now let's get to the points of interest. The way we structured this patch this time is I have all my sub-patches, because I usually work in scenes first and then throw them into a bigger demo patch. I basically threw every patch I made while I was searching for inspiration for the demo in a little sub-patch, and then connected them to a root trigger. As you see, I have 2 of those, and I'm going to show you why. So every root trigger has like these little outputs, and you put these sub-patches on, and if you let it run, you also see what's happening on these textures. So basically, I trigger everything twice, so I can layer 2 scenes on top of each other. This was kind of my solution to the art style problem of, oh God, my scenes look boring. I don't know what to do. My solution was to draw multiple scenes and then figure out some artsy way to layer them on top of each other. And it worked. So basically we have, so this is everything, all the scenes, and I draw them twice, and then show me. Hello? Yes. I have all these scenes in this timeline. These keyframes are the index numbers of the root triggers. So if you want to throw everything in and then just like cut your scenes, you can just work with the timeline editor, which is not perfect for this small edit stuff, but when making demos, I use it globally, and it works. And this is also why I have this frame counter here, because when I was cutting the scenes, I could just type in, like, I don't know, beat number 96, have the frame number, and then I could make a keyframe, press M, and then basically insert the frame I would want it to be the key. So I highly recommend it like this. This is the first time I did that, and it saved me a lot of time. Yes, so it goes into this switch texture thingies. And as you see, I have 2 variables here, foreground 1 and foreground 2. More on this now, because this is where it gets as complicated as I really enjoy it to be. Because, drum rolls, this is my whole post-processing tree. I usually don't make complicated 3D scenes, but rather very complicated post-processing routines, because this is what I'm good at, and this is what's fun for me, and having fun is the most important thing. So the foreground 1 and foreground 2 go into the little switch number where you have these non-descriptive numbers, but what it really indicates is it goes into this root trigger, where it then gets routed into its respective blend mode. So I can layer 2 scenes and then choose which blend mode the scene is going to have to kind of determine the look. Sometimes I have a scene rendered into 2 different blend modes, depending on the scene, like this little heart that you've seen earlier. Wait for it. I mean, here's it in the end, and it's rendered like this once, and there's another form of the same scene that is, I think, this one that's rendered in a subtractive blend mode and then gives you the little outlines of the heart instead of the filled mesh. This is something you can do to have a little variety on the same scene to not have like if you need some variety. But before we have like this little foreground thingy. No, not you. The first layer of the whole composition is the foreground. Let's check it out. Let's check it out what it does. So this looks really messy, but also isn't really complicated at all. You see, I have this rectangle. That every now and then gets a little drop of a gradient. And if you just took a look at the right side, you see that the gradient has this little tie-dye fade-ins. Yes, it gets processed in this little feedback pixel difference round, and then gets displaced through this little feedback routine and so on. Gets a little chromatic aberration on top of it, and suddenly it's not a gray rectangle anymore, but looks kind of fancy. And I started with this.
And can I?
Yes, please.
I want to understand this. So I never looked at the patch, but so this is rendering the fluid simulation.
Yeah.
I call it. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
And can you show the textures that are producing this, maybe? Okay.
Yes. I mean, here you have this waveform gradient and pixel noise.
Okay. So this is for the height of the waves, basically, or?
Yeah. Yes. No, it has not yet. This is just the color drops that happen every this interval, and it gets a random seed every time, so it looks different every time it drops. Then it gets rendered onto this rectangle. I don't know why it's in 3D space suddenly now. Like I could have done it in 2D space, but it was something different earlier, and I just stuck with it because it looked cool. The waves happen here in this tree, where you have the you have this gradient texture that's used as a mask. And then you have the FBM noise. This makes the waves. And the pixel difference. And if I change the step to something else, you would like here see the result. And in this tree, everything, like you have this rectangle, and you have my usual RGB offset, and then it gets colored and gets into another feedback routine and gets displaced by the by the pixel difference result that gets rendered here.
That's really cool.
It's actually the same trick we used for Let This Darkness Be for the title sequence with the fluid flowing typography. And I just copy-pasted it and deleted the mask. That was the typography, and originally I just wanted to try something out with that and stuck with it.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, please please ask them, because otherwise I'll never stop. Yeah, so we have the background that, while I'm there, I'm going to show what happens. It just gets rendered as the first layer. And then we have the first scene that gets triggered and the second scene. Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is that every draw image has a mask, but the first scene and the second scene, they have inverted masks. So if it's visible, like if the first scene is 100% on opacity, then it will have like the opposite opacity on the other scene. I can quickly show my debug layer that I used for compositing the scenes together. Like one is white and one is black. So you can always see what two scenes are rendered together to create the final result. Which also kind of looks cool. Yeah, because if I started doing this whole thing with a finished mask, I probably, like, I couldn't really focus because it kind of looks so trippy that I really couldn't focus, and I needed something clearer. Yeah, originally I wanted to animate it with different masks, but didn't. So this is why there's a time sequence and not just like root trigger. And yeah, I didn't bother to clean up, so I could show you that it's possible to be very chaotic and still make a demo. Yeah, so I guess let's dive into the scenes a little. For example, those scenes use a mesh of the Orbo house that you see here. But it's like a really low poly mesh without like any properties. So if I would show it naked, it would look like this. And you can see here that it's really just plain metal boring. So what happens here? I really love to use all the different noises that Cables gives you. So in here, I just generate some pixel noise, like dial it up a little, and then use edge detection to have other sort of lines. It's just try and error. And then I used like texture projection on top, and kind of scaled it until it kind of looked like the Orbo house, or like some Orbo house fantasy. Yeah, for those who don't know, the Orbo house is the location where the demo party is held. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, and this texture projection trick is something I use really, really often because it's easy, and as of late, you can also choose different blend modes that also give you kind of different results depending on the blend mode that you get. So you get a huge variety just from playing around. I think it was in multiply, yes. I think it was in multiply. Yeah, so then we have like, I have like many varieties of this scene, but only like this one mesh. So what happens here is that if I have a scene like that, where I just switch the camera position, but show basically the same scene all over again, I use root triggers and just switch up the camera position or whatever I want to change while rendering the rest of the owl as it gets all over again. And then time this with a timeline. Or you can also have, like, you don't have to use a timeline. There are many options. If you just need some numbers, and you can use gate number and, for example, the beat counter, or if between then and beat counters. So like anything will work. Yeah, but this is like a very cheap and quick result that also like always works. Yeah, and I also have, as you see here, some variety in the post-production. Like for example, here I use the mirror op to make the heart, and in other scenes I obviously don't. So yeah, every time I need some variety, I make either a gate number or root trigger, or if true then, if between then. It really doesn't matter, as long as you have some number and you kind of know what you want to have. Yeah. Then this is also, I think, a scene that I can show you that works. Yes.
What's your proudest part? Like, what are you most proud of?
I'm very proud of making this without losing my mind, actually. But this is probably one of the insane. Is it this one? Yes. So in this one, we have the deadline logo. Let me skip to the part. Yes. So we have the deadline logo that Moog actually made, and I really wanted to incorporate that, but find some new way to style it. And let me give you. It's a really trippy effect that I like to use, where I really enjoy feedback effects. And here I'm using a feedback effect to generate a normal map. And also to generate like the ORM map. So it kind of is very over the top and resource hungry, but also kind of organic and not like something you would see before. Yeah, so that one is cool. And also just to show how little complexity you need to make something that looks cool. This scene, kind of cool. Yes, there you were. Yes. See how the result in the demo is actually kind of different from what you see here, because what's happening here is a really nice concrete texture that's just like rendered on the scrolling cube. Like let's zoom out. It's just a cube. But if you like, then I just put the deadline slide over it that just Mona made, and again some noise. And I used again my favorite pixel displacements ops to displace the concrete and make it look trippy. And again, you see I have these many variations of the theme to play around. I'm not sure if I ended up, I didn't end up using them, but I created them. So what's also kind of new for me this time is that this was the first time that we used the in-house typography with the MSDF text meshes. This is all Tamu's work, so I didn't do the animations, but usually we would use we would do it in After Effects and then render it out and put it in. And this time we just use the MSTF text meshes, and it looks crisp and sharp, and I would really recommend. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
if anyone has any questions.
Looks super structured. I mean, you said like without going insane, and also about all the complexity, but this stacking everything away in subpatches seems to be a nice way of at least visually organizing your patch so you don't go insane while doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I even do it harder. Like before the big demo patch happens, I work every idea out in a separate patch, because you don't really have to commit to an idea. You just try something out and see if it looks good. And if it looks good, and this is why all my patches, all the great ones at least, are named copy of copy of copy of new patch. If something looks good, I just make a copy and then make a new version, change something up. And this is how variety happens while still having some sort of connecting elements. And this whole tying it together from little scenes into a whole demo is the most complicated part of demo making for me, and I think for everyone. So I try not to think about it as long as I'm having fun exploring ideas. And when deadline hits and you have to throw it all together, this is what I'm doing. And from that, you kind of start exploring how to restructure it in a way that lets you abstract it into something that you can actually use for the entire demo. Because yeah, like for example, before the whole big patch happened, all the post-processing, of course, happened in each scene once. So if I wouldn't have restructured, I would have ended like with, I don't know, 200 image composes, and this is not very healthy, as we learned. So this time we only have one final image compose at the end, and this is where I root. It was really a pain in the ass to do this whole thing and the other things as well, but yeah, it's really like trains the brain to think and to restructure. And it's like you only make the whole over engineering stuff for those parts that are actually worth it, and you don't use it as a procrastination method to escape from the creative process.
And it turned out absolutely beautiful and magnificent. So
thank you.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
You also turned out beautiful and magnificent.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know that the texture was generated procedurally with noise operators. That's really cool. I love that. And yeah. I have a question about the synchronization to the music. So you calculate the beats and bars, and then this also gives you like there are always those little bangs. So the synchronization, apart from the hand synchronized, the hand keyframe stuff, it's also
usually yeah, like for example, like I use a timer up a lot, because for all the flowy stuff it doesn't really matter. But like this I only trigger the timer once the patch is triggered, so that's synchronized like here. And I also have variables like here random beats. That's kind of good to have when you need like some random numbers. Then I have the integer beats, which is like very good for synchronizing. But
you're not using FFT or MIDI or something.
No, I don't, because I'm bad at it. And the track also wasn't really inviting. Like if it would be like a drum bass demo like we've done before, then it's probably a great idea to use drum bass, to use FFTs. But with this one, all flowy and hip hop, and I never. Like sometimes it's better not to have the things on beat, and the only thing that really happens on beat are the timeline cuts that happen here. And this is also kind of by design, because everything else is really flowy and not on point, and just like by feeling. And the cuts happen frame exactly on the beat to give it some sort of structure.
Yeah. No, the synchronization works pretty well. So I thought there's more behind it, but it's probably that the speed of the motion and this kind of stuff is matching the music. That's probably.
Yeah, and I also calculated for like the randomness stuff. Calculated like what would be like for like every fourth beat, how many milliseconds, how many frames would that be, and then kind of guessed around what would be cool for the easing stuff. Like it's all kind of my intuition and less math, because actual math drives me insane.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, nice. Nice. Thank you for showing us all of this. If there's no more questions and you're fine with that, I think we will see more of all this by Dojoe and LJ, I think.
Yeah,
actually, though,
I
would have a question. Because you said like previously you were doing the titles and stuff in After Effects, and then like integrated somehow. And I'm wondering, like, how did you do the integration? Did you like render out a video and then key it, or
Lottie plugin, and like this is usually China's department. And I think it was rendered
SVG, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah. Which is also very cool because it works.
Yeah, you can also get crisp rendering from that. But so back then, I guess this is why you said for the crisp rendering, but you can also get this with nowadays with the Lottie operators. There are a few new ones, but yeah, we can dive into that another time. But yeah, it's also a good choice, I think. Yeah, so it's like a 3D file, but just for 2D stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great ever since there's pre-multiplied alpha options. So before then, kind of was tricky, but I think it's been solved for a long time, and everything looks great. Yeah, so
doesn't seem like it.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed and could follow my ADHD-fueled TED Talk, and thanks for listening.
It was great. It was perfect. Thank you very much. Great work.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, now I'm not sure what I have to do. Will I receive a link and play that, or do you guys want to do this?
You can play the link that I sent you earlier in the group chat.
Okay.
I think that's what I did, at least.
This, yeah, okay.
Yep.
So same thing. We're being presented Hallmackenreuther by top right, bottom left, and Dojoe and LJ will present the patch. And before we start that, as before, we watched this deadline demo party winning demo.
And you are going to see a world premiere because we've been quietly working on a final in the background.
demo scene does finals now?
Some do finals. I was bored on Sunday.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm still on time. There it goes.
And you need to share on Discord also.
Oh. Okay, sorry guys. I again did the same mistake. This is killing. Okay, 1 second. So I will share. This one. Okay. Wait a second. Why is it already slow? No.
Okay, there we go. Now we have it on Discord and also on YouTube then.
Don't have sound. At least I don't have sound.
Sorry. What is this? I think I tested it on.
You can just right click and that, yeah.
Okay. Hopefully that's it. Does it stop?
That works.
Hey. Great work, guys.
Absolutely great work. And now you guys share stream and show us how it's made.
I am going to share my screen, and LJ and I are going to show you how the sausage was made. 1080 through 60 FPS. Let's try 60. Discord keeps complaining to me that my internet is not up to snuff, so if you get any kind of weird, if the quality is crappy or the frame rate craps out, let me know and I'll reduce the frame rate.
Looks fine. That being said, I also tend to, when presenting, scrolling in and out and moving in the patch a lot. Like if your internet connection is not so good, like try to be slow in moving around in the patch.
All right. Okay. I'll try to keep that in mind. Yeah. Just interrupt me and let me know if it turns into a garbled encoder mess. So, yeah, we are Team Hallmackenreuther, or TRBL, as we're not all officially we haven't been officially members of TRBL before, but we decided it would be best to release our production under TRBL moniker. The basic idea of the demo was to make a demo to honor Mog, and was to make a demo to honor Mog and Mog's legacy by producing a demo that Mog himself could have made. And for one, LJ and I knew that we wouldn't be able to do this alone, and also part of the idea was to get as many seniors as possible on board to kind of contribute scenes if they would like to. So we asked around and asked people if they would like to contribute. A lot of people would have liked to, but didn't have the time. But plenty of people actually ended up having time and contributing. So we've had LJ and me. We've had Zavi, Yfinder, Saga Musics provided the soundtrack. And then KJ, Messi, and Benjam. We also asked some people like Venom. We asked Venom, we asked Dino, we asked Darya, but they were all either super busy with preparing the actual demo party or with making their own demo or other things. So ended up not working out, but we ended up being 8 people, which turned out to be exactly the right number, as you'll see later. So first I wanted to talk a little bit about the way we organized this collaborative group effort. Basically what we did was we set up, first was just a group chat in Discord. Eventually Discord told me that, holy crap, you've got 10 people in there, you can't add any more. So I figured, well, I'll probably just make a server then. So then we opened a Discord server, and in that Discord server, we just started building scenes by ourselves. We had plenty of time, and we made a team in Cables. And for this kind of work, the Teams feature is absolutely fantastic, because everyone could just make patches, and you see we've got an entire wall of patches here. It started with our first the first patches that LJ and I made, and then people came in and produced other patches, and then like LJ produced. You may recognize this patch from the demo. So KJ produced this patch, and LJ cloned it and did a few things to it to add some cell shading, and then we discussed it. And the other thing that really worked great was a voice channel in Discord, and just meeting up in the voice channel for collaborative cabling and just trying to discuss things as they came up. And so that way we cloned each other's patches, fiddled around in them, and just like Darya told us earlier, how she was first having little sketches, and then only in the end she would lump all those sketches together in the big patch. That's the same thing that we did. Everyone would just make their own little personal patch for one single effect. Like this is the. I actually didn't want to edit. I just wanted to view it. This is the first iteration of my dojoe credit patch, for example. So that is actually the first thing that I made for the demo. And then we kind of just worked from there. LJ eventually cloned this and made it awesome. And then we dropped it into the big demo. We tried to stay within the small sub patches for as long as possible, and also applied tweaks in the individual patches because that would just make collaborating easier. People could work on their own patches in parallel, and we wouldn't kind of start competing for editing rights on the big patch. So having those individual patches made collaboration really, really easy and really productive. So that worked very, very well. So now let me go take a quick look at the cheat sheet that I had for what all we want to talk about. And then eventually, go ahead.
Well, I was just about to say, like, while you catch up, so from the beginning, we set out that the theme would be like to go into the Designers Republic design theme. So that's like the I would say artist collective. They are like also a studio, like in the UK, I think, who did design for some beloved 90s video games, most prominently the Wipeout series. And we like Bog loved them. We love them too. Like they are very cool designs. So we wanted to go in that direction. We searched and looked for some reference material and shared that. And we're like, oh, this is like the direction we want to go in. In retrospect, I would say maybe we should have done a bit more in regards to like search out references and like do more like I'm missing the term right now, like a storyboard, like not a storyboard, but like a design ideas board. So more people so we have like a clear vision defined. But I think we still managed to get there. But this also informed our decisions on like palettes we used, and also like a bit of the camera angles when we do have them. Which, to be fair, like most of the stuff we did is like 2D on purpose because that's a lot is like those poster style 2D bold design things. But yeah, so that's that.
Yep. And also since you say color palettes and general style, this is something where a lot of pretty much all of the credit needs to go to LJ, in my opinion, because as you can see, we've had scenes that were like super bland in some cases where there was a good idea in there, but the colors were just default colors, and some of the details wouldn't quite work out. And then there were many cases where LJ would eventually go and clone a scene and dick around in it, and all of a sudden you wouldn't recognize the scene anymore. Like all of a sudden it had an idea, it had a theme, it had this dojo racing thing. It's so perfect. And I think that is a big lesson for us too. Very early, as we started really putting things together into demo and really collaborating instead of just people doing individual patches. On one of our first meetings in the voice channel, we decided, okay, we're going to have one creative director, and that person's got to call the shots. They're gonna have the last call on things if anything's contended. And we picked LJ because LJ's got a great sense for color and for style, and he really nails this Designers Republic style. And I think that is one part of why the final demo kind of came together, looks very uniform in its style. So that really worked out well. If you do collaborative demo, pick one person to call the shots. We can still discuss things, but eventually one person needs to have the vision and say what's being done. And yeah, do you want to add something, LJ?
Not really. I'm just saying. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like the more people are in the team, because otherwise you will get bogged down with like discussing every fine detail amongst like 4 or 5, 6 people, and spending basically hours on like, should we ease this like linearly or do an ease out or a bounce out or whatever, and it just costs a lot of time and resource that is better spent on actually producing content and ideas and iterating on those ideas rather than getting lost in the small details and wasting a lot of time on that.
Yep, exactly. And so
yeah,
then,
I mean, yeah, you had a fixed deadline, right? So,
oh yeah,
and I saw you guys working until it was shown, more or less. Yeah, great work managing all those people. I think that's one of the big challenges here in this project, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
it was
certainly one of the primary challenges.
Yeah, but then like doing it felt kind of natural because we're essentially all friends, and we're all working towards a common goal, and so we basically we didn't have any of the problems you'd have like in a big corporation or whatever, where sometimes you've got people who don't want to work with other people, or yeah, I don't know, corporate bullshit. We're all aligned on our objective, and that made things relatively easier.
Also, I would like to say, I think this specific demo, like, it kind of lends itself a bit to it, because the scenes, like, you're not making like one coherent, like you don't have like a linear visual flow in regards to colors and scenes or whatever. Like, it is supposedly individual scenes being shown, which reflects like this design of like being like shown like a design with like bold colors and shapes, and then like seeing another one and another one and another one, rather than something that like evolves over a long time frame.
Right. Yeah. That made things a lot easier too. Yeah. And then eventually, as you said, Pandur, it was time to throw everything together into a big patch, and that's when LJ and I spent pretty much all of deadline, and also the a few days before deadline, just putting stuff together, wiring stuff up, and polishing stuff. So with that out of the way, why don't we show you the patch? Here's the patch in all its glory. It's pretty small, isn't it? So, just for base overview, we also use the heck out of sub patches just to organize stuff. And generally, we can say you've got this section up here, which is kind of initialization, startup, music. We do use MIDI for syncing, only in a few places, but we do use it. We've got all the shared resources in here, which is mostly font files. Let me zoom in a little. So we're using 7-ish different fonts in the demo. We've got one 3D object which is reused between scenes, so that just goes into an object variable. And then we've got all the preparatory stuff in here. We've got the startup here. I'll show that in a second. We've got the MIDI in here, and we this is actually I should add, this part is based on the revision invitation that Control Alt Elite and Dub made together. And they had a few very nice things built into their demo that we kept. Like you can just right-click the canvas and it brings up a little MIDI visualizer that I then expanded on a little bit. And also this timeline control down here was really helpful. And then you click right mouse button and it's gone again. And we've got the player control, we've got the music player in here. We used to have an FFT analyzer in here. We ended up not using it, so I threw it out of the patch. Oh yeah, I've got a little beat visualizer down here to see that I'm actually in sync, so that audio and visuals are in sync, which they are, as we can see. So all of these those are little things that I always like to build, these little things, and they are super helpful. And these are things, this upper part here, I could basically copy paste it into the next demo and start using it there again, because it's mostly it's framework. The startup part took a while to get about right, and I don't think it's really right yet. I'm gonna still modify it a bit in the next demo. But it's basically the usual. We've got a loading status, we've got a play button, we've got the demo pre-render. There's a story to be told for that. I actually, Pandur, this manual timestamps input, is that a new addition?
I think it was there already.
Because
I'm not sure. We should look at if it's on the live, if it's there. But I think it was there. But actually, I don't know. Maybe I edited it.
But this is the live. This is not the dev. So, but
okay.
This was extremely helpful, because for the final we had super long pre-render times, because we've had a few problems with the demo pre-render that it was creating a lot of events. And so I dumped the events out of the demo pre-render. I fixed them up offline and just put them in here manually, and that really helped with the pre-render times. That goes in the progress bar, pretty much standard fare, and then we get into the actual demo. And here, because our demo it's basically a scenes-based demo. So you just, as LJ said, you've got a billion scenes, and you just more or less show them in sequence. So we've got a scene switcher up here. This is a custom op. We use the custom op a lot because we're too lazy to just create our own blank op. That is what you actually do these days. But it's very, very simple JavaScript. That's just it's basically just a list with all the cut points where we would switch to the next scene, and then the update function would determine which scene to play based on the input time. Excuse me, and also subtract the scene start time from the current time to produce like a local scene time. I should also add all of our demo time is measured in beats. We've got this variable beat float, which is the current music beat as a floating point number. So you can, if you're in the middle of the beat, you're at 23.5. And that's what we also derive all of our animation from. And because all of the scenes were built as separate as separate patches, we created this local scene time that goes into the scene subpatch and provides the scene subpatch with a time that starts at 0 as the scene is started. One of our biggest, or one of the challenges we had, was we did want to have transitions, but we're only ever rendering one scene at the same time. And our solution to that was not to build some complicated render multiple scenes and then have transitions post framework, but instead we more or less faked it. Most transitions are actually sometimes we just have hard transitions. We just hard switch from one scene to the next. Most transitions are actually a fade to color. And that turns out to work really well with a flat TDR style. Like during this credits part, most of the transitions are actually just a fade to the background color of the following scene. Where is it? Yeah, see here? Like I'm just fading to the background color of the next scene, and then the next scene just starts rendering. And because most scenes actually start with a flat color, that works really well. And that is something you can simply do inside the previous scene. So you just show a big flat color overlay that you fade in. And then there are a few places where we would actually take in frames from the adjacent scenes and fade over to them or do some more advanced things. And then those things would actually be handled inside the scene that is currently playing. So we opted to just add some custom ops, some custom patching into the scenes to build the transitions instead of building complicated transition management on the outside. And that also worked very well. What we also did the same way as Darya did is every subpatch renders into a texture, and then those textures go into one big blob. And the quote-unquote clean method would be to have a big switch texture that then takes in all those textures and switches the right texture to the output. But there's a lazy approach where we can say, okay, we just connect all those textures to a single texture input, and the last one to provide a texture wins. And because usually there's only one scene providing a texture, that's no problem at all. And if we have things where one scene, this is for the transition, sometimes one scene actually has a trigger output that will trigger one of the adjacent scenes. So then we have two scenes providing a texture to this input. Then we have to be careful about the triggering order. But otherwise, it's all just fine. And so this goes into this. And then we have a relatively little bit of post-processing with a relatively big bit of handmade control. And that's about it. Most of the demo runs relatively flat, and the one obvious piece of post-processing that we have is this PAL effect, which we didn't write ourselves. We got it from the RetroArch project. And then we added a little bit of bloom on top. And in the case of this scene, we also have a little bit of pixel displacement to kind of simulate wobbly reception, but that's about all that we do. And then we put it all on screen. So that's the overall patch structure. Any questions so far?
Maybe same question. What are you most proud of? And maybe LJ first.
Well, you mean from this like main patch or from the whole demo thing?
I don't know. Yeah. So the most proud part didn't make it into the main patch?
No. Well, okay. I guess the group greetings scene, because it's also like I think it's the technically well, I wouldn't say most complex or crazy thing, but it is well, I think it really just grabs the Designers Republic style, and it also has like an interesting technicality with the way it's probably not very visible right now thanks to the encoder, but like there is this this effect on the ship itself where it looks like it's like shaded with like lines, and that's actually, and well, it also has like these weird depth intersection things where like the text on the right, like the scrollers, the horizontal vertical ones are behind the ship and the ship is in front, but the tunnel is still behind it. So I did a bunch of like fuckery with the depth testing to have this design style, for the lack of a better term here. And the line shading on the ship was actually like kind of the result of a happy accident where originally I wanted to, so what I'm doing is like I'm rendering the ship, and that's tying into a very recently published tutorial from Pandur, who published this rendering things to like rendering the positions to a frame buffer and then using those positions, like the world space positions. And what I wanted to do is have the ship be basically just be a stencil from the ship, where it's just lines. Whereas, like, imagine a curtain hanging from the top, with just lines hanging down, and then the ship like pressing into it, like these pin things where you push your hand into it and it leaves your impression, leaves the impression of the hand in it. And I wanted to do that with a ship, and I did that with a ship, and it sucked because you wouldn't really recognize the ship anymore. But then I played around a bit with like the density of the sampling and also like how these lines are connecting, and that resulted in this like line shading on the surface of the ship, which I think is kind of cool, and I don't really see that a lot of anywhere. So yeah, I think that's the coolest thing, and yeah, my favorite scene of or whatever.
Yeah, I also really like this, and it's really close to the Wipeout look. At least that was what I initially thought. I was like, okay, that's odd.
Yeah, same. I really love that.
I also like a bunch of the other scenes though, so this is really kind of mean to ask me for that.
But I think it's good to act, to kind of focus on one thing.
So then, Dojo, what's your favorite?
Go ahead, Dojo.
You wanted to say something, LJ?
Yeah, but that's to the main patch, so I guess we just like circle back to that once you described your favorite scene.
All right. My favorite scene, I think actually I've got two favorites.
One.
Damn, one. This one. This is the one that I am personally most proud of. It looks very simple. It's the messy credit scene. Let me see, where is it? It's here, where all the M's are dropping from the ceiling, and then it's bam.
Yeah, I like that.
I love that, and that too was a happy accident because I actually, this is the result of it's probably quite obvious. This is physics simulation, and I thought, okay, the M's all had mass 1, and was like, okay, the messy, it's bigger, so it should have a bigger mass, so let's make it 20. But I fat fingered it and I typed 120. I didn't notice, and then I simulated it, and it had this hilarious effect where it just
you made it with the MOJS operators in cables, the physics simulation.
We just threw all the other M's around, and I loved it. So yes, I did this with MOJS, and it's actually it was a bit of work. First, I had to kind of hack ammo. Well, not really hack ammo, but I had to constrain it to be only 2D. So basically, all of these things, all of these M's and the messy, all of these are very, very flat. All of these are very, very flat, not rectangles, but like 3D rectangles. What's the word? Not cubes. Yeah, but it's not really cubes because they don't have the same edge length, but they're very, very flat. And essentially they're squished between two more or less glass panes. So that with no friction at all, but that kind of helps to constrain them to be a 2D simulation only. And
what's ammo recording player?
That's the part that I'm most proud of. Let me go and show you the messy credit scene. This is like the source for everything. And every time I reload it, you will notice it's always somehow a little bit different. And sometimes the big messy doesn't even drop. And that's because ammo is broken.
In a lot of ways.
In so many ways. It's always very...
I also watched it on my screen, which is like a 360 hertz screen or whatever. And it also simulates at frame rate, which means it's completely broken on my end.
Oh yeah, for you it's probably way too fast then. But the biggest problem that I had was that every time I started the simulation, on the first tick of the simulation, random objects would disappear. Every time different random objects. And that's because in the ammo simulation, for unfathomable reasons, like at the moment you start the simulation, the location of random objects becomes not a number, and then they're just there, and they just drop out of the simulation altogether, basically. And the way I'm simulating this, let me go and here's the debug renderer. Active. Oh yeah, there it is. So the way I'm simulating this is I set a big stage. And where's the...
I've had a similar problem, and something that helped with me was when the walls weren't so close to each other. I think it's when the walls are very tight to your kind of...
Possibly, yeah, but I needed the walls so tight so that the simulation would stay 2D.
So I did something quite similar, but I made the walls big and the cubes much bigger so they wouldn't turn.
Okay.
So you wouldn't feel like that. So I made the walls quite wide, and every shape was the length of each kind of cube was very long. I found that helped.
Such a horrible bug. It's such a horrible bug. I spent so many hours, and I don't know.
So again, this player. So you're recording this and playing it back.
Yeah. So now what I did is I hacked up the ammo body, the ammo body up, and essentially and the ammo world, I think. And I hacked up the ammo body up to to record the object positions every frame. And then I added a little download box here, and then when I ran the simulation, floop. And then when I ran the simulation, I could just go and then download this little recording. I put it into binary format to save some space, and then in the main patch, I've got the player that uses that file as an input, and then just replays all the animation frames.
So
and then
you only store the position and the rotation, and then you render the object with this metric, probably matrices, I guess.
Yep, I think I think it's exactly as I say. I just store the I just store the rotations and the positions. So I'm trying to save as much data as possible.
So cool. Super cool.
That's very
I was
cool.
like, really confused when Gert-Jan said something like, "Hey, you export this from Blender and then you import it back again, so you just have the shape keys and play the animation, but you don't need the wind anymore, or you have a fixed animation." But this basically kind of the same thing. You do the animation somewhere else, download it, upload it again, and just play it back. It's awesome.
Exactly, and then I don't have to lug all that simulation system with me, and I get the same. I essentially get the same result every time, and there's no randomness in there, no unreliability. It just works every time.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's about it for my favorite. Yeah, and then the rest is, as I say, and the rest is history.
Yeah, nice one. Are there more questions?
One question about the line animations you did, maybe with like the dojoe or something where it like comes in and makes like the logo and continues. Is this just meshes with like a texture scrolling over it, or how did you do that?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. Let me go and open that.
I also want to know this. It's a good question.
Let me go and open that patch. It's custom ops all the way down. So basically, I coded two little custom ops that will construct a 2D, and essentially just an array of points by walking through lines and circles. And let me see if I can make that work really quickly. Oh yeah, probably like this. Basically, this is what you're looking at. So this is the total geometry generated by these guys, and then first I generate the geometry, then it looks like this. Then I shear it a little bit.
So this is 2D coordinates, and
this is all 2D coordinates
or something. Okay. Yeah.
No width, exactly. Yeah. And then I've got another little op, and this I'm not really sure if this is something I coded or if I cloned one of your ops, but this is the next op that will essentially I'm also using it here. This is basically producing a subset of the of this spline I'm handing in. I think I didn't put that.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh.
So this is that way I'm getting.
Go
ahead.
Sorry. Is this a natural way for you? For me, this kind of modeling in code,
it's the only thing I know how to do is probably the thing. It's I think in code a lot. I think in math a lot, and this is the way I know how to do things. Whenever I design something, it's most of the time it's 2D, and it's always very axis aligned and round and circles and like primitives that are then put together in some way.
Yeah.
This also kind of ties in, since I'm also in the same way, and it also ties in how we did most of the sync in the demo and in general, like cameras and stuff like that, where we would just write ops and just do it with code, and then like basically we write like puppeteering ops that just push data into some ops, and we do all the animations and timings and stuff like that in the like in code basically. So we the whole demo doesn't use the timeline like or keyframes or anything, which has two reasons. For one, was just more comfortable for us, like for us two specifically, because we did most of the overall sync. And the second reason is that when you do like individual scenes in their own patches and then merge them together, you can't really easily just shift all the keyframes from where the scene actually ends up, where it is in the global timeline. Maybe there is actually a solution for that, but like we didn't bother to look really, because we just said like we don't use timeline, we don't use keyframes, we just do it in code or like using map ranges and stuff like that. If times
you're also using like three external assets, right? I mean, most like it's really everything's modeled in code or in cables, I think, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Maybe except the ship or something.
Yeah, the ship is the ship, the icosahedron, and then the fonts, I think, are pretty much the assets that we have. Also, the ship is like ripped from the actual PS1 game, just for the record.
Oh, nice.
Like not by me, I downloaded it somewhere, but officially speaking. And to get back to Dojo's credit scene, like one issue that remained after he did his like initial sketch, there were issues with like the bends that they looked pinked, and we weren't really happy with how it looked. And then Benjam had the idea of, I think it was Benjam, and if not, then the person who was it can only be KJ, but I think it was Benjam who had the idea to basically use screen space, like you render the path as one pixel line and then extrude it in screen space and like give it the width in screen space, because then you wouldn't get the kinks at the bends. And you would also get like axis aligned. Like there you see the kinks where Dojo is showing, and you also get like the ends of the paths which are like tilted, and sometimes they're not tilted, which is also ugly. So Benjamin had the idea of basically doing it in screen space, which is prohibitively expensive, but in the end was like the quick fix solution that we ended up using, which is also why in the viewport it looks way too thick, because this is basically just it's just an X amount of pixels, and in full screen it looks alright, and it was adjusted that way. But that's like the final.
Don't run it on 4K screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could just multiply it with the resolution or something. But yeah, yeah, cool. That's interesting. So. How did you get the smooth edges then if you do it post-processing? So is it a low resolution and then you scale it up? Or no, probably not, right?
What do you mean by smooth edges? Like we really don't do much rather than like just like walking into a direction like X and Y, and basically checking like for a collision.
The main thing here is that the structure element which is used for enlarging the line is a circle. And that is the whole idea here.
Yeah. Like a reverse edge detection maybe. But yeah, okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's like similar to that, yes. I did another attempt where I was like animating a sphere along the path and then not clearing the buffer, so it would basically just, walk along the path, and then you would have the shape be painted by a sphere. This way you would also get like constant edge radius. But that didn't work out well with like animating it at the same time, because like it's also not a constant, like the text doesn't just end up being there. You have like this cool stripe animation, and doing that with a sphere and not clearing the buffer would be like it was very frame rate dependent, to get like a perfect straight line rather than like a bunch of spheres piled onto each other. So we did like a bunch of iteration actually on this rather simple scene from the looks of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many ways to do stuff.
Yeah, and I would have really loved to kind of sit back down and actually actually write some code that would actually turn the 1D, like the thin line, into actual 2D geometry. But yeah, you know how it is with deadlines.
Yeah, I want to do this with WebGPU when we can do it all on the GPU, and then we can do really nice tessellated meshes for this kind of stuff. But yeah,
This might be a good.
That's just an excuse. But
maybe a good handover to the next topic, isn't it? Are there more questions? Great. So yeah, thanks for showing all of this. Also super interesting to see how you use the Cables website features like Teams and everything. Never seen anyone teaming up with that many people, and glad it worked out for you. It's pretty cool to see.
And also I should add that as of right now the patch is public.
Awesome. And then I can share something that I've been working on. Is but another.
Yeah, you have to.
It's not working.
Yeah, I gotta first set the team visibility to public, but I'll figure that out and make it public.
Okay, but then for the time in between, everyone who's not that much into Damascene, I'm sharing this little thing that I created. So there's a patch list with Damascene Productions. It's in no particular order. It has some of the boilerplate, like the demo templates, so you can get started from there. But you can also see everything that the Damascene produced with Cables. If something's missing, please let me know, or and I'll gladly invite you to participate on this patch list.
Let me just quickly show it on the YouTube stream. So you can go to explore.
Right now, nobody's sharing a screen though.
Yeah, on YouTube it's visible. Let me just do this way. Patch list. I'm not. Yeah. Okay, so you go to explore and patch lists, and then you see the patch list is called Damascene.
Yeah, you click on public patch list, and it's called Damascene. I just also posted the link to YouTube and in the meetup channel. And yeah, you can see all the productions. And once this patch is made public, it will definitely go in there as well.
Yeah, we will also feature it on the Cables page and in the YouTube description once we figured out how to publish the patch and the team and all this stuff. Yeah. So I think this is basically like the biggest. This is even bigger than more people involved than our commercial projects that we do with Cables. It's really cool. Huh?
We're just two people.
Yeah, but yeah, it's really cool to see this this group effort. Yeah, I love that. Okay, I will prepare my stuff now.
So next up would be. Let's see if I click here, does that work? Yes. So we've seen all the demos that we want to show, and we've seen a lot of tricks. Also now how to work with Blender, and now Pandur is going to show something that we have up our sleeves for some time to come. Yeah, we've been working with Canvas and WebGPU, and Pandur's going to give you a rundown. Feel free to ask questions in the channel or in between.
Yeah, just ask. Just speak up and ask.
Thanks again for showing, everyone.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's not really something great or special or awesome WebGPU stuff, but I just wanted to share that we are working with it and that you can get a feeling of how switching to a new API basically, which is quite a challenge. So how we are approaching this and how it will look like in the editor. And so you can also actually go to dev.cables.gl and join the WebGPU team, and then you can play around. But probably everything will break and be implemented differently because I'm also just figuring this out on the fly. But I just want to share the current state. So what I can do, so I joined the WebGPU team already, and I can just search for WebGPU and load this the team operators, and then you see those team operators also. Many of them are already broken or don't make any sense anymore. So for me, this is just basically testing how to port the core graphics code from cables to a new API. So this time, for WebGPU, we don't have a main loop operator. This right now it's called WebGPU Canvas. This will also probably change, but whatever. So now I can, for example, just draw a circle, and this operator is just our ops.gl meshes circle. So all this stuff will move into a new namespace, which is just called graphics, or I don't know yet. Which is compatible basically with both graphics APIs. So you don't have to change so the goal is that you can take your patch and just change the main loop, and then you would have a WebGPU patch. So this is the goal, but this will be probably never achieved. But the idea is that you have something compatible, and then you can go do this and then fix up your patch to convert it to WebGPU. It's also probably you don't want to really port complex stuff over, but so the idea is that we can just reuse this stuff. So if you're into the code, the code is really the same. So we have this geometries, and we have the mesh object and classes, and we can just work with them. And so I can just add an orbit controls here, and actually it should work. Let's try. Okay, let me reload this. Okay, so now it works. So the interesting thing is that we now have a different canvas object, and now you can here switch between WebGPU and WebGL canvas. And right now you can also have basically two canvases with different APIs rendering at the same time, but this will also probably change. But yeah, as you can see, you can just use the usual orbit controls operator or the usual transform operator, and the meshes operators like rectangle or circle. You can also load GLTF scenes already. Probably some features are not working, but it is possible already. So the interesting part for sure are the materials. So there's only the WebGPU minimal material, which is basically just setting the pixel color with some uniforms. So probably we will not port over all the materials how they are now. There's some bigger plan, but the next thing would be probably to port over the basic materials so that we have that we can already use this, and then let's see how we port over the more complex materials. But yeah, so I think that's basically the current state of the WebGPU thing. So there are no textures yet, or no more complex shaders. So one of the biggest problems is to manage to somehow wrap away all this binding stuff from WebGPU, which is quite different from GL. So this binding management in the shaders and everything. But yeah, so we're trying to do this as simple as possible so that we don't have every op cloned as a WebGPU version. So basically we try to have them in a compatible way in the future. So just want to share this. So the next yeah, please.
What's the difference between the two? The new WebGPU and the WebGL?
WebGL is basically like a 15 or 20-year-old standard that is not developed anymore. So it really lacks some features that you really have in modern GPU APIs. So maybe you know DirectX 11 or DirectX 12. So they have some more possibilities, and they are much closer to the current hardware than WebGL, because this is really a really old standard. And so actually the main difference for me, or the main difference in general, is that you can have compute shaders. And so compute shaders, this is the stuff that drives, for example, AI. Or you can do more complex calculations in the shader than we can do right now. So right now we can only have set the color of a pixel or set the position of a vertex in a triangle. So we have only those possibilities to do on the GPU. So this is why also we do everything. We drive stuff with textures, right? So have positions stored in a texture and use those positions from that texture. And with compute shaders, you're way more free to do complex calculations. Like, for example, generate meshes, and you don't have to upload them from the CPU to the GPU, and this kind of stuff. So you have a more modern approach to this kind of stuff. Basically, like modern games can access stuff on the GPU. And so WebGPU is basically, it's the follow-up of WebGL. So, and actually in Chrome it is enabled by default now. Firefox, it's available in the nightly builds, and Apple is a bit behind, so there's no public implementation of Apple that is visible. So I think this is the big thing that is lacking. So if they publish their implementation, then you can use it really on websites. Then it could be used really. So and when that happens, I hope we have some state that you can really build stuff with it. And but yeah, so I don't know how long that takes. They don't tell us. But it's there, and maybe it will still take 2 years or something. But at one day it will come, and then we try to be ready in some way.
Yeah, cool. Gotcha.
Yeah, cool. So the compute shader part, this is basically probably the next thing that I want to check out. Calculate something in the compute shader and display that somehow. It's the next task basically. But yeah, I will keep you guys updated in the meetups how the state is. Okay, another thing which is pretty cool, which is actually a new feature. Let me create a new patch. So we talked about in the meetup already about the external canvas thing, and how it's really handy for VJing and stuff. So if you don't know this, so there's an operator external canvas, and let me just move that. So when I have this here and I can click open window, and then I get a second window, and I can basically see a mirror of my canvas in a second window. And you can use this for example, VJing on a second screen. So I can move this window to second screen and set it to full screen, and can do presentations or something like VJing with it. So that's really cool. So now we want to work on this, and this is also a request made by a few users. And the request is that we have this in the Cables UI directly. So as you can see here on dev, we have this little button here, and it's called pop-out canvas. So you can click this, and then you have the window popped out in a second window, and then I can play around here. So now this thing is gone, but we only have one copy of this patch, and cool part with this. So it's a really tricky thing if you work with HTML elements. So it was a request from Wir machen bunt to implement this, and it's basically a sponsored feature by them. And so the request was that the external canvas is actually working with interactive stuff like, so I can now use the orbit controls with this canvas. So it's only looks like details, but technically it's a huge difference. So I can use this canvas and interact with this, and I can also now create a sidebar. Okay, I cannot obviously. Let me try. Okay, so I create a div element, and you see the div element is there on the popped out canvas, which is quite tricky. So I can close this window, and then it returns to this canvas, and you see the div element again. And basically the same should also happen with the sidebar. I think it's only this way. So now when I pop it out, then I have the sidebar here, and I can close this window, and it's popped back here, and then the interactivity is back in this window. So this is just a work in progress. So the idea is that basically you still can have the mirror here, but somehow you can define where you want to show the HTML elements, right? Because for VJing, it's super handy that you do this. You have, like, as the demo people showed, Darya had this debug sidebar thing here, and maybe if you want to VJ, you just want to have the GL stuff on the second screen, right? And here I can set up and I have like a debug screen, or can modify some things in the sidebar, and then I want this here. But if you develop for a huge touch screen, which is your second screen on your PC, you want to move this window to your second screen and use it with a touch screen, for example. And this, all those kind of cases, which is really, I don't know, finicky. We're trying to figure out now and try to put this all into the UI so that you just click one button and you have it on the second screen. Also, if you make a demo, so my problem is always I look at the demo and the preview render is this big, right? And then when I see the demo on the big screen, it's, if I try to look at in a full screen, but you work like everything is way too big if you work on this little screen here. And so I think having like a second screen and always pop out the window to the second screen and work there will also be a huge help. But yeah, so that's the pop out canvas or external canvas thing that we're working on, which I think is a really cool addition. Yeah. Any questions about that, or remarks, or ideas?
People seem to like it. Not only from their hearts.
I see some hearts.
Like comments in the meetup channel.
Yeah, I think it was also requested for a long time, and turns out it wasn't as hard as we thought. But yeah, it's a lot of little tweaks and yeah, funny things are happening if you just move HTML elements to a new window. But yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess that sums up the official part.
Yeah, think so too. Thanks for also showing some behind the scenes, Pandur. I think we do it as we did the last time. Thanks everyone for joining, participating, showing stuff. Awesome things. And this will then, for the people watching on YouTube, if there is any, will conclude the official part, the recorded part. We're going to stop recording the stream in, I don't know, a few seconds. For the people on YouTube, I'll post where to come to basically join the Discord on the meetup channel and be there next time. It's going to be a month until we do this again. If you want to show something, just give me, drop me a personal message on Discord, and yeah, then we talk. But we already have some good ideas. Would be cool to see something like this. Again, super interesting stuff. Thanks, everyone. And now head over to Discord. Thank you.